How's it going, Yankee fans? My name is Alex with my co-host here, Nick Nielsen, and today we want to talk about Aaron Judge. Now, Aaron Judge is an MVP candidate. He's putting up the best numbers of his career. He is healthy, knock on wood. He's transitioned to center field. He has 2 walk-off hits in his last 5 games, and both of them came against the Houston Astros, which is pretty damn impressive, if I don't say so myself. Now, Aaron Judge is in line for a big contract extension. I wanted to discuss with Nick here our perspectives on how much the Yankees should pay him and what Michael Kay had to say about it today in terms of he doesn't think that the Yankees are going to overpay him. He thinks that Aaron Judge wants 36 plus million a year. And from what he's heard, the Yankees are not going to pay him upward of that. They're going to try and lower that even. And, I want to give out my perspective on that, kind of give you an idea of what a reasonable contract would be based on his performance this year so far. But Nick, before we dive into the good stuff, how do you do today, my friend?
I'm doing great, Alex. I'm really excited to do this episode today. I mean, we've talked about it before. Everyone wants to say like, oh yeah, give Judge a blank check, blank check for Judge. Because that's truly like what everyone should want to say that's a Yankees fan, because this dude has done so much for the team. But I'm excited to talk about this episode because we had to like actually factor in what the Yankees will do and what it'd be like realistic, what we expect them to propose, what would happen if Judge decides to say no. Like, I know that's a thought that no one wants to think about, but there is a world in which Aaron Judge is not a Yankee. It's a one that I don't want to live in, but it's one that may exist nonetheless. So I'm excited to talk about this episode today. Great game yesterday. Definitely rough start, but the fact that Montgomery is able to get through 6 2/3, despite looking like he was toast in the 3rd inning, where he had 29 pitches and gave up 5 runs. I'm very happy with that game yesterday. That team, they just don't quit, dude. They just don't quit.
Resiliency, man. That's the MO of this team right now. They're battling, fighting. They don't want to lose games. They wake up in the 7th inning, like we spoke about this a couple days ago. Like, for whatever reason, the 7th inning comes around. They're like, oh wait, let's actually play baseball.
Pretty wild.
And they kick it into overdrive, and bam, they're winning games now. And Aaron Judge has been probably the catalyst behind that. Just getting on base, coming up in big moments. And last year was his first season where, like, okay, he's really been healthy this. I mean, aside from 2017, he kind of had some injury issues in 2018, 2019, and then even 2020, he missed a couple of games there in the COVID abbreviated season. But last season, 148 games, really made an impact. Hit 287 with a 37% on base rate, 39 homers, and a 25% strikeout rate, which was a career low up to that point. But
he's
now
so good.
He's gotten even better, and that's kind of scary to consider. 293 is hitting right now with a 36.8% on base rate, 638 slugging, 28 homers. He's on pace for over 60 this year, 57 RBIs with a career low 24.6% strikeout rate. So we'll see where his numbers end at the end of this campaign, and if he can come up big in some big playoff moments. And defensively, man, he's been a stud. Going into center field, he's showcased that range. His arm is still impeccable, but he is 30 years old. So here's my question for you, Nick. Mm-hmm. If we're talking about a contract extension, are you okay signing him for 10 years?
Now that's, I knew you were going to come at me with some heat to start it off. Now, 90% of the time, I feel like, especially for, now, okay, 90% of the time I say no. Because anytime you get into those late 30s, especially once you turn 40 for a 30-year-old here, it is dire straits most of the time for baseball players. There are very few Nelson Cruzes out there. There are very few Ichiro Suzuki's out there that have played until they're 40. But with Aaron Judge, I think he falls in that 10% category where, yes, I would give him 10 years, honestly. Like, at this point, I don't think we're going to see another Yankee baseball player with as much impact on the team, on the fan base, on the city as Aaron Judge has had. He's had the most impact since Derek Jeter. I mean, for a bit there, yeah, people loved A-Rod, but there's always those people that hated A-Rod. I mean, for right reason. A lot of time A-Rod messed up sometimes, but then, of course, A-Rod was also a hero sometimes. With Judge, I feel like there is no bad with his good. Like, everything he's done the right way, the Yankee way. People believe, and I'm one of those people, that he should be captain of this team. And he just leads everyone, not just through his play, but off the field as well, through his example. He's got the All Rise Foundation. He does a lot of work with inner city kids, even helps out in California still. Like, Judge has embraced his role as a superstar and has thrived in it. Not a lot of players can handle the spotlight. Joey Gallo is not built for New York, despite him having 130 WRC plus that season when he got traded with Texas. He's just not built for the bright lights. Aaron Judge is. So I would absolutely give him 10 years. I would even give him 11 years. However, it just depends on what Judge wants. Because if Judge wants 10 years, and that's the gripe like that they couldn't agree on in the offseason, like right before the end, like when Judge sent his deadline, was the years, then I don't think that's a problem. I don't care if you give him 2 extra years, and if he's not productive, not productive in those 2 extra years, if it means we get an extra ring or two, and it means we get to retain one of the, if not the best player in baseball this year.
Yeah. So my perspective is this. I am terrified of long-term contracts for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Jacoby Ellsbury scares the shit out of me. And the Yankees have made some pretty bad decisions with
He had a great game
deals.
yesterday, Ellsbury, by the way.
Which
Catcher's
is
interferences.
Yeah, which is absolutely
there.
insane. Absolutely insane. And I'll tell you what, 10 years scares me. But with Aaron Judge, you're not just getting a random great player. You're getting the face of a franchise.
Yeah.
You're getting a guy you can market. You're getting a guy that helps the city. That's a big part of the culture of this Yankee team. Jacoby Ellsbury was just a good player. He meant nothing to the Yankees. In fact, people were like, this guy's from the Red Sox. We don't want him to begin with. You know, like Aaron Judge is born and bred a Yankee. He is meant to be on this team. He wants to be here. He does the right things. He says the right things. He's a leader. He got his teeth fixed and now he looks like a god. You know, this is where, you know, you make those decisions where it's like, okay, Aaron Judge, he fits the mold of a 10-year contract. So my only concern is, are you going to side with play over culture and longevity of the image of this team? I think that, like, what would you side with? Would you rather go with performance or just like great image for this Yankee team?
See, it's so hard because with Judge, it's like that classic taco shell commercial from back in the day where it's like hard or soft shell, and it's like, why not both? And then it's dun 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 dun. Like Aaron Judge is both. Aaron Judge is a great image for the team and an elite player. And I will say the one problem that Aaron Judge has had, and it's the only gripe that every analyst that doesn't deserve to be an analyst says on Aaron Judge, and is that, can he stay on the field? We've seen Aaron Judge be able to stay in the field now for, I want to say, 4 years out of his like 5 or 6 years that he's played, like full seasons. And that's what I think. And his injuries aren't even like long-term injuries or things that are like, oh, he got injured lifting weights. It's like he's got a shoulder injury that had to get fixed. He's got a hamstring injury that's been nagging him. He's got a quad. He's got a wrist. Like, they're things that are more or less out of his control. So like the last season and this year, we've seen like a fully healthy, a completely different like workout and setup and routine Aaron Judge, and we're seeing the results. The dude transitioned into center field, like having basically never played center field in his career, as a 6'8" player flawlessly. Like, his range yesterday was on full display, and his arms always been on full display. The dude just does everything and anything asked of him. So that's why not only is he just an elite player on the field, but he's just the perfect brand that you want to build your team around. Aaron Judge has been top 7 in jersey sales since 2017. Top 3, I believe, the last 2 years. Top 1, I think, last year. So, like, Aaron Judge is just not only the face of the franchise, but he's a face of the MLB. So if you let him walk and go to even the crosstown rivals, the Mets, which I think won't happen, or the Giants in San Francisco, kind of going back home to Cali, then like, okay, like that sucks because I'm sure they definitely overpaid for Judge. But either way, you're losing Aaron Judge. Like, this isn't some type of Carlos Correa sign a 3 or $100 million deal, give him his AAV he wants. This is a lock him down for the rest of his career, or else he will go elsewhere and help other teams win games. And that's what it comes down to. Aaron Judge is going to be an 8-WAR, 9-WAR player this year. You put him on another team, that team's infinitely better. Any team in baseball. You put him on the Orioles are easily in 2nd or 3rd place in the AL East. Like, that's how good of a player we're talking. And that's why, for me, it's like 9-year, $330 million deal, check. 10-year, $360 million deal, check. I don't care that he wants $36 million. And I get what Michael Kay said. Like, I see him saying that the Yankees don't want to offer him too much money and that Judge may be looking for too much on average. But you have to realize that in the next, if he signs a 10-year deal, I truly believe the next 6 or 7 of those years, the Yankees will be the best team in baseball. Because you have to think about what group they have around him right now and how their team is built. You don't give out that massive contract to Cole or take on Giancarlo's contract if you're not trying to build a lasting dynasty.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And, you know, personally, I think that there has to be an out kind of built into the contract at some point,
That's
whether it's
fair.
for Judge or for the Yankees. And if I was Cashman and I was Hal Steinbrenner, I'd say, hey, okay, look, we're going to give you a 10-year contract, right? We're going to give you 35, let's say 34.5 million, 30, whatever, $35 million a year for 10 years, but we get an out after the 7th season. Or rather, maybe how about this? We have you get a player option for the 7th season, but we get an out in the 8th season.
Yeah, no, and
that way,
I think that's a great structure.
which is fair, because that way you give him the autonomy to say, okay, you know what? I want to go to a competitor. I want to go try at a different team, whatever, go to a different city. Maybe I want to finish somewhere else, wherever it is. He gets the choice. Otherwise, maybe he's not playing well. He can opt into that, get his money and still maintain, his status and whatever with the Yankees. And then after that, the Yankees can say, okay, you know what? Maybe he's not playing as well as we thought he would be. Maybe he's kind of degrading very fast. Guys at that size, sometimes they degrade quickly, especially if you're playing center field. I imagine he'll probably transition back to like right field or more or less just a DH player towards the end of that long contract. Like kind of Stanton is now, which is disappointing, but it's the reality.
Yeah, but Stanton, when he plays the field, he's not bad. He's not great. He's good. He's solid.
He's good.
But that's mainly because in the past 2 years, Giancarlo really hasn't gotten to play the field a ton. So it's kind of, again, I do think it's a little bit like, all right, we haven't seen, he's never given enough of an opportunity to show if he's consistently really good. But when he plays, he has one bad game and then he has like 5 or 6 good games in right field. So it's like, I'm fine with how we use Stanton right now. And if at the end of Judge's contract, he becomes that type of player, that's fine. Because if we sign Judge to a 10-year deal, the last 3 or 4 years of that deal, Stanton will no longer be on our books. Like, that's the other thing. This is a long-term deal we're talking. Like, this is a very long-term deal. Like, this will be, I'll probably have kids by the time Judge retires. So it's like, that's what's crazy to me. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime player. You don't just give out these deals to. I understand the Yankees have gotten kind of burned in years past in these long-term contracts, specifically with Ellsbury. But with Aaron Judge, you look at Jacoby Ellsbury. Jacoby Ellsbury's best season was his 30-30 season 2 years prior to when he hit free agency. And that year was like, I believe he had a 6 WAR that year. Aaron Judge has already got like a 4.5 WAR. And we're not even at the All-Star break. Like, there are leaps and bounds between these two players. And I understand that Yankees fans are a bit reluctant to give him the bag, especially because of the fact that he kind of he said he wanted to be a Yankee for life. And then he just turned down, like, what was it? I want to say $300 million the Yankees offered him, $280 million. So it's like, I do see there's like a little bit like maybe Judge does want to test the market and try to see how much money he can get elsewhere, because you do know teams will throw it at him. Like, that's the thing you have to realize. Like, the Padres may have some money coming up. The Dodgers always just don't believe in the cap space. The Yankees are honestly one of the biggest contenders to get him. That's why I don't get like all this worry about money. The bullpen basically will be like completely under like long-term contracts and contracts over $7 million in the next year. Like, we'll have like almost an entirely homegrown system in the bullpen, which is how we should do it. We shouldn't be overpaying for bullpen arms anyways. And then you'll also have bigger name guys like Donaldson off the books, Rizzo off the books in a couple years, DJ off the books. So it's like all these things 2-3 years down the line factor into whether or not Judge gets a long-term deal. I just think that if the Yankees were really the Yankees, and if they do win it all this year, there's no way that you can't extend him. And if you let him walk, that's just shame on you. Like, this isn't like letting Hideki walk after the World Series, in which he was like the MVP of. That was a different situation. This is our franchise player who was literally drafted by us, who we have believed in since the beginning, who has come up through the ranks and now has his own fucking section in right field. That's who this is. So at the end of the day, blank check is what the phrase is. And give him a blank check. Give him the $340 million for 9-10 years that he wants. He deserves it.
Look, Judge is everything the Yankees, aspire to be in terms of like homegrown talent, like you mentioned. There are teams that are going to be willing to pay him. Look at the Giants, maybe even the Mets. You never know with Steve Cohen. The guy's got more money than God.
So much money.
And you don't even want to, I don't even want to test that market. You know what I mean? I don't even want to think about.
And the Blue Jays have money too now.
Mets.
I know that's crazy, but like
it's reality.
There are more teams now than there's ever been with the books, the checkbooks to sign Aaron Judge. Like, it's what happened. Right. The Phillies even were able to sign Bryce Harper to a massive deal and then flip around and give Schwarber and Castellanos big deals. Like, they clearly don't care about the cap space and what they're going to be doing. So it's like you have teams now where it's like Judge could go anywhere, honestly. Detroit was in the market for Correa, and they opted for Baez for a little bit cheaper. But they spent what, 150 million, 160 million on Baez? Like, there are teams that are willing to spend the money to get the talent, to help them win games, win World Series. The Yankees have shown in years past that they're a little bit reluctant spending the big money other than Garrett Cole. This is the moment where they can put all that aside and say, this is our franchise player. This is the guy that literally brought us out of kind of the years where we weren't really that great of a team, for being honest. He's turned this franchise around. People no longer hate the Yankees because they're douches. People hate the Yankees because they're fucking good.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wish the baseball treated the game like, the NFL treats their teams, in terms of like the NFL, like every team is trying to compete. There's no like, oh, we're just some farm system for other teams like that, like the Oakland.
Even Jaguars are making moves this offseason.
Yeah, like look, they're spending money. Like they want to win games in the NFL. The baseball, like there are teams that just don't want to win. Yeah. They just want to sell players, make their money. The Pirates, like, look, there are squads like that, and that's really disappointing for baseball in general. But Aaron Judge is like, he's a guy who brings in money, and look, it factoring in inflation, factoring in that there may be players down the line that get monster contracts, and here's the thing. Here's the thing, and this is the last thing I'll say, is that teams that win the World Series rarely maintain the same exact squad. Look at Atlanta last year. Yeah, Freddie Freeman's gone. You know what I mean? Like they lost big guys. The Yankees next year, if they win it all, they should keep Judge, but they have to start leaning on some of their younger prospects to take over. Like Peraza needs to probably get some reps this season to see if he can translate.
Yeah.
There's guys honestly, there's guys like Wesneski, like there's guys like Waldichuk, like there are JP Sears, youngsters.
Yeah, he's starting today. JP Sears starting is on today. The bump.
There are guys that they're going to need to lean on in the future. If you can retain Aaron Judge and continue his performance, you'll always be competitive.
Exactly.
But you also need those young guys to step up. And I think the Yankees have a good enough farm system to supplement. And they're going to have to cut corners cost-wise if they do go for Judge. But they have the farm system to do it. So I think that's a major factor in Brian Cashman's overall plan. But I also think that aids into another conversation that we don't need to have right now, that he probably doesn't want to unload a ton of prospects right now because he's going to need them.
Yeah, you probably definitely. Yeah, you bring up a great point to end this video on. Yeah, it's a great point. Like I hadn't really thought of that. Like maybe Cashman, and the reason that we are in on Luis Castillo so heavily is because they wanted Will Warren. They didn't want one of our top guys. They didn't want a Medina. They didn't want Wesneski. They didn't want Heel, even though I know he's injured. But my point where I'm saying they didn't want our top guns. And maybe Cashman's thinking, I'm going to try to make this team as great as it is right now and as great as it can be for this season, because this is the year to win it all. But I'm not going to give up our top guys because we're going to be giving Judge all this money. So we're not going to be able to retain this, and this. We may have to get rid of this guy. And that means we're going to have to rely on our farm a lot more. So you bring up a great point. I hadn't really thought of that a ton. That's a great point.
Yeah, so interesting. So we'll have a conversation soon. But overall, I think our perspectives are similar, is that you kind of have to pay him, especially if you win it all this year. And he's worth so much more to the team than just a good player. He is a staple in the community.
One WAR is worth 7 or 8 million, according to Fangraphs. This was granted 4 years ago when I read this, and it's probably updated a little bit. But let's say 1 WAR is worth 8 million. Aaron Judge right now is worth 32 million based on his WAR alone. And that's not even at the All-Star break. So remember, guys, this is a generational player that is worth $350 million, without a doubt.
Yeah, and look, you bet on talents like this, right? Ones that have shown good health, knock on wood again. But guys, hope you enjoyed this episode of talking about Aaron Judge. Love to hear your thoughts and perspectives on if you would pay him over a 10-year contract. How many years? How much money would you give him? I think that the Yankees should submit to his demands ultimately, because he has all the leverage, and without him, this team isn't even half as good. And that's just
the fallback is Soto. Everyone's saying if we let Judge walk, we'll just go get Soto. Yes, maybe, but that's either A, when Soto's a free agent in a couple years, or B, when we give up our entire farm system for Soto. So it's we have, great, Soto could be an option.
Keep him, man.
But just keep Judge.
Justin Verlander 25
and Judge is better than Soto this year. Soto, Grant's having a down year, and he's 22. But Judge is a better player than Soto is. That's not a question of a doubt. Soto's not good defensively at all. You put Soto in center field, you're forfeiting that game.
And here's the last point. Actually, last point.
But it's just
when Aaron Judge is earning for this season, he's earning $19 million. Okay. If you just take Josh Johnson out of the equation, you've already paid his salary for the year. So let's not get
Chapman
crazy.
out of the equation, Britton out of the equation,
Joey Gallo.
Gallo out of the equation, Hicks out of the equation in like 3 years.
You can pay him.
DJ out of the equation in like 3 years. All this stuff makes sense.
Cashman's just trying to, count his pennies and try to save $1, and Hal Steinbrenner's kind of being a little cheapskate now.
Buy those chicken buckets, everyone.
Buy
the chicken buckets.
Buy the chicken buckets. Make sure that we can pay Aaron Judge, my friends. But thank you for tuning to Fireside Yankees. As always, my friends, make sure to like and subscribe. We're close to 1,000 subscribers. Help us get there. Build a community. And we promise we'll give you guys some stuff back. We have some cool, we have a cool store in the works, and we'll give you guys some cool jerseys and whatnot to celebrate this accomplishment as always. And hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.